Federal or Adam style. There was a hiatus or pause in construction during the Revolutionary War, which slowed down the colonial or Georgian style, which nevertheless builders continued to use into the 19th century. By 1776, a revised style in Scotland, coined by Robert Adam, was an amalgam of Renaissance and Palladian forms, with the delicacy of French Rococo and references to the classical architecture of Greece and Rome. By 1780, the Adam brothers, Robert and James, had the biggest practice in England. In 1764, they visited Spalato to study the palace of the Emperor Diocletian. They published measured drawings of the palace and proved Roman architecture more varied than architects had understood. They recognized that ancient architecture was not standardized. As found in the United States, the style is known as Federal because it blossomed in the early decades of the new nation. Lightness and delicacy characterized the style. Delicate decorative patterns found on many private homes in Pompeii and Herculaneum were adapted. Urns, festoons, and sheaves of wheat. Features of the style include interior spaces that are hexagonal, circular, or oval in plan, columns that are attenuated and light, porticos that are airy. There is a wide spacing of slender columns, and ornament is often geometric, circular, or elliptical. Windows are of narrower proportions, and mullions or glazing bars are more slender. Room shapes may be expressed on the exterior, and there may be curving steps with delicate rails. And finally, roof lines are generally quiet, often concealed behind a balustrade. Adam was inspired by the rhythm of the three-part center-arched opening he saw in Spalato, along with the blind wall arches. His interpretation of the ancient ornament was rendered in delicate carving in the plaster of the ceiling vaults. Both Woodlands and Apsley House feature full-height, three-bay center porticos in a five-part composition. Woodlands has the added feature of Palladian windows set within walls of random ashlar, or uneven courses of rough stone. Both floor plans display circular or elliptical rooms, which in Woodlands, the elliptical spaces are expressed on the exterior. With the closing of the port of Boston in 1774, Salem became the temporary capital of Massachusetts. It became the principal trading center of the eastern seaboard. In 1799, the first fortune of $1 million in American history was recorded in Salem. The basic form of the Salem Federal House is not radically different from three-story colonial townhouses, but its elements are more refined and subdued. The Pingree House from 1805 represents the inheritance from the architectural handbooks refined by Puritan taste. Samuel McIntyre was essentially a wood carver who became an architect-builder or a housewright. His work is characterized by austerity and grace and is described as finely tuned in its proportions to a degree of vibrant resonance matched only in the open strings of a violin. Pingree House has these features: smooth wall surfaces, emphasis on the doorway and central bay, a concealed roof line, stone string courses giving horizontal repose, lintels that are flush with the wall, graduated floor heights, and an elliptical fanlight over the door. The Russell House in Charleston, in contrast, is narrow and vertical. With its main second-story windows set within wall arches, it has a bit more texture than the Pingree House. Inside, door and window frames both feature finely carved entablatures with festoons and slender columns supporting projecting entablature blocks. The stair halls both include finely carved wood railings, while the Pingree House has a center hall stair characteristic of its Georgian antecedents. The Russell House has a remarkable free-flying stair, self-supporting except at the two floor levels. While both houses have main and service stairs, the floor plans clearly demonstrate the more emphatic use of geometry in the Russell House, in which the oval room projects amply on the exterior. Built at the same time, the houses in Maine and Rhode Island both feature graduated story heights, balustrades concealing shallow sloped roofs, projecting entrance porches, Palladian windows over those porches, and chimneys at the outside walls. The materials differ, with Nichols Sortwell using matched wood boards and the Ives House made of brick. And while Nichols Sortwell has a traditional rectangular form, the Ives House reveals an externalized semicircular space. In congregational buildings, as with houses, connections with the colonial era are unbroken. London's St. Martin's in the Field still is a major source of inspiration. While the steeples in the Old Lyme and Providence buildings are similar, the elongation of the classical portico in Old Lyme is fully characteristic of the later period.